And another thing that's going to happen with, this is an opaque media, correct? Yeah.
Yes.
Fake.
What's going to happen is that, and it takes a little bit of experience, but you're also going to do a little bit of finding things in the paint a little bit. Especially, you know, you do a lot with oil, like if you're doing a live portrait of somebody, you're throwing down the landmarks and everything, trying to get that lightness or whatever, or whatever you're trying to do. And then you know, because it's an opaque media, after you start building it up a little bit, you start to reshape things opaquely, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
just, you know, you can always kind of, you know, you don't want to rely on a bad drawing, but I mean, if you, you can sort of with opaque media reshape it a little bit, like watercolor is a little different than that, right?
Uh-huh.
Is a graphite wash technique, okay? The reason I'm saying this is, here's what I'm going to do. I'm doing this demo for that class tomorrow. Then once I get a reasonable enough image to play with, then I'm going to throw paint over it and start doing a little bit of a mixed media thing traditionally for this class. And then I'm going to take that and I'm going to pull it all into Photoshop and I'm going to finish it all out in Photoshop for my illustration class. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think this is a really fun technique. Now what I'm doing using here is a wash technique with graphite. Okay. So it can create kind of an interesting ground to start on. Okay, so it goes there. Let me see if this is the right one. I don't think it is. Do the drawing over that. And then I start going in and carving things out. And all I'm doing, and by the way, this is another exercise that's really good. It's another thing that it's really good for is if you're new to painting, or if you've been drawing and you haven't done really, you know, or if you're new to painting, one thing that this is good for, if you notice, once I put the line drawing down, I'm not at all thinking linear anymore. I'm just thinking shape and where light's falling. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it starts to work your brain into more painterly thinking and value. This is actually how I learned how to paint. Before we started painting for weeks, we did graphite or charcoal powder studies. Okay. And it was to get our brains out of linear thinking and into paint thinking. Okay. So, you know, you just keep building it.
So gouache is erasable?
This is a graphite powder.
Oh, I thought it was.
Now, what I did was, and I'll show you here in a sec. So it's a reductive thing, but you'll notice I come back in here and reinforce it. Maybe in this one, I'm not sure. Yeah, here. I'm taking more, but this is all graphite, okay? And then I go back in and I start taking things back out again and reshaping it over and over again. And what it's going to give me, what I'm going to have here probably at the end of it is of kind of, I'm probably going to do sort of a dark, sinister-y looking paint job on it. So I'm mostly just using an eraser. I don't know what this is. There it is. Okay, and I'm only taking this so far in this one because I want to get onto the paint part because it's going to be a 3-part thing. Here, if you notice right there, you guys see that there's a little bit of powder in there. You see it?
Yeah.
And then I'm going in with a wet brush that I dumped in water. And then I'm just painting into it, right? Now, does that all make sense?
Yeah.
Now, what I'm going to do after this is I'm probably going to go over it with acrylic and I'm going to start building color on it, okay? Now, I could just leave it at that, but I'm doing this. I believe in the all parts of the buffalo thing. So if I make the drawing, then I can do a mixed media demo traditionally, and then I can take all of it into Photoshop and do a kind of an editorial take on it, okay? because that's what I'm doing in my illustration class. So and then I don't usually do this, but in this case, I'm going to chop it into 3 parts because I want them distinctly, you know, for different classes or whatever. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes. Hey, after the semester is over, are your videos still going to be available to us?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
okay,
And I'm available forever.
that's awesome.
Right. So if you want to keep doing this, or if you go, how did we do that again? Because you're not going to remember everything we talked about in here. It's a lot of stuff. And sometimes you're going to need that reinforced, and just come back and go, how did we do this, that, and the other? It's fine. Okay. Also, if you're doing something in another class, and I really encourage this, by the way, if you're in whatever, an entertainment class, an illustration class, I don't know, maybe a graphic design class, or, you know, or whatever, something like that. And you go, I want to do this kind of, because you'll see when I get done with this, it's already getting, you notice it's already getting sort of a murky kind of look. Does that make sense for this little train thing, right?
Yeah.
I'm doing that deliberately. I want to get this smoky, how this started is in my illustration class. Somebody is getting pretty influenced by Matt Mahurin. Okay. So Matt Mahurin does this kind of stuff. Very mixture between traditional and whatever you call it, digital. Okay. So, you know, in some of these, he's using obviously some photography, his own photography, and then some of these textures and painted things are traditional, you know, probably these little things and stuff like that. And he'll pop them in here, and then he starts painting into it digitally, adding textures over it. So I'm kind of going to do something sort of like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I'm really, so anyway, if you're in another class, now, if I was going to do a quick sketch or something, or, you know, whatever, like let's say in an entertainment class, and I wanted to get a real, I mean, there's a bunch of ways you can use this technique. It doesn't always have to be murky and dark. I'm just going for that. But if I did want that, I might go in and just do, you know, my wash thing and start pulling it out. I'm going to get atmosphere and mood really fast. And then maybe I just skip over the traditional paint part of it and jump right into Photoshop from there. It's going to give you a quality that's hard to get just right off the bat with digital. You know what I mean? And plus I can start to get a real mood going very quickly. And I can also do these wash drawings in like, I can do them in an hour, you know, so I can do them faster than most people can do them in Photoshop. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Plus it's an additive and reductive technique. So you saw in there, and I'll try and get this, I'm going to try and get this part of the video edited today, try and get the paint part of it done tomorrow, and then I got to edit that. And then the digital part after that. So, and I'll put them up, and I'm going to put all of them up in this class because I think this all relates to this class. Now, I was doing that in a Moleskine sketchbook. Okay. So let's look at another thing. What surface you do this on gives you different marks. Okay. So this is what a demo I did in a life drawing class of a student. Hang on. So you'll see that I get a really painterly background with this. You see what I mean? Where'd everybody go?
We're still here, just observing.
Okay, do you see how different that mark making is?
Yep.
So really painterly, okay? So if you're like doing the Friday night costume figure thing, you should try this. It's super fun. But this is on vellum, okay? It's probably drafting film, okay? I love doing this on vellum because it's got a very slick surface and it really picks up all the paint marks, and you can lift it right off with a kneaded eraser. So what I usually use for this is a kneaded eraser for soft and you know, and I can shape that kneaded eraser. And then I also get a Mars plastic eraser for like sharper lines. And I almost use it like a flat brush. Okay. And then I usually put this down with an old beat up bristle brush. Okay. The more beat up, the better. So I usually save my old bristle brushes, my old crappy bristle brushes for that, because the more jacked up they are, the nicer marks they make for this kind of thing. Then I just let that dry, and then I just start lifting color out or lifting value out. And then if I need to, I'll go back in and reinforce it a little bit with more graphite, or sometimes I'll just go in with pencil and start drawing back into it, and so on and so forth. And I get this very painterly look, okay? Now, I could also wet mount this down and start washing color over it, and I could start building up a portrait out of it. Does that make sense? This one was done on location, okay, over at Travel Town. This is just the powder, okay? So I usually keep a little tiny jar of this, and that's all you need for this, especially on location. You buy a jar of graphite powder or charcoal powder, it'll probably last you the rest of your life. But anyway, I keep a little jar of it in my sketch bag, and then I'll just dump I'll do a quick, I think in this case I did the drawing first. I just did a quick drawing, threw my little bit of graphite powder over it, took some toilet paper and just rubbed it out a little bit, and then I just lifted it out. So this has no water involved. This is just straight graphite powder, yeah?
Yeah.
Yes.
So those are the 3 ways you can do it. Maybe I'll do a dry rub out too, just to show that. I'll do a portrait or something. Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
And I'll try and get that. I'm going to try and get that video of the first part of this part of it up today. And when I do, I'll link it here. Okay. But I have to finish. I haven't even started editing yet. I just shot all of it, and I'm probably going to do one more shot. And then I'll have that section, I think, is good enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm also going to put up a video on a Little Mix Media thing using how to use acrylic and colored pencil. Because that's pretty straightforward. Then if you guys have any questions about it, you can ask me. Really, the trick there is that you're putting down a layer of clear gesso so you can start drawing on it. You'll see it in the video. And then I'm going to put this up. And then whatever else as soon as I get the other pieces done, I'll put those up too. So just know that this train idea, it's all connected. It's 3 sections. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's getting pretty flat. Yeah. Part of that is because like here, you got a really hard edge where that probably is a much softer edge. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and also value, like there's not really any very punchy values in here yet. But this deltoid rolling down into the arm like this is going to be a softer edge. Right? Because there's nothing being cast. It's more of a, see, that's a little better. This is more of a cast edge right here. I don't think this would go all the way up to here though. Like you're really carrying the arm into there pretty far. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So think about your edges, like all this in here. I would also probably, and you don't want to just blend everything out. That's not what I'm saying, because that's what people think when you do this. It's not about that. It's like, where is there a soft edge? Like this is a very hard edge. We talked about this last time. I wouldn't have such a hard edge on her neck or on her chin because she's younger, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is manage your hard and soft edges, okay? I think you could get some more contrast in here. Like you don't want all this to get, you don't want your eye going to all these shapes right here. They should be pretty subtle around, you know, where's the light coming from? So it's coming from the upper right, right?
Right.
So over here, that's got to match this too. So this shadow isn't making sense right here. This is, yeah, this is a cast shadow here, but it's usually, I don't know why, it's just usually a softer shadow. So I don't want too much information in there. Another thing I'd probably do is like somewhere back here, probably soften these edges. Usually with as things go back like this, you can take advantage of the idea of it softening up as it goes back in space. Maybe to here, maybe I'd do it. And that's it, right?
Right.
And then I'm always looking at, where can I do a hard or soft edge? Also, I drag some of this, I commingle some of the flesh tone into the hair. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Your hair, as it goes back, I mean, there's some exceptions to this, but not a lot. But your scalp intermingles as it goes back in. So as it hits the front line of the hair, you actually see some flesh tone, and then it goes back into the hair. Okay. So it's always a nice technique to sort of soften that as it moves into it. Sometimes I drag it into it a little bit, where I drag a little bit of a
Little
sort
bit
of
on the
like
scalp.
that. Huh?
Oh no, I was just like reiterating. So in my head.
But you can see how it helps a little bit, right?
Yeah.
It makes the hair look a little more natural. Probably do it here a little bit. That's way too hard an edge right there. Might soften that a little bit. Now, the beauty of gouache is that you can usually go back in and do some softening later on, which is a really nice thing to be able to do. See, that's getting a little softer now. It's not such graphic shapes everywhere, right?
Right.
Now, another thing, and again, I don't want everything to be a soft edge, but I do want to get some. And when you watch both these colors here are starting to feel pretty out of the tube. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. I was kind of wondering how I'd be able to. Should I add some sort of pattern to the top? That way it's not so flat.
So what? Flat? You could.
Like, how could I texture that?
Okay. One thing also, when you're doing, like a shirt or something or whatever, you got to be careful that you're not sort of just taking it right out of the tube, right? So normally you're going to knock it down a little bit. So if I have, usually it's a compliment, or it could be, or you could be altering it some way with another color. You could be adding a little more red to it, a little more blue to it, a little more whatever, or you could add some yellow to it and knock down the saturation a little bit. So you're sort of making a decision on your color making, because most things in life are not saturated color, right?
Right.
You get some things that are screaming colors. But even that, it's probably, if it's going into shadow, it's going to, you're going to hit it with a complement a little bit, knock it down and darken it up a little bit. And then, and then as it comes out into the light, it might not still be a screaming bright color still coming out. And then maybe I'll hit one or two spots with a little more pure color to sort of show light and things like that. But for the most part, you're not going to be using color out of the tube almost ever, right?
Right.
Now, I might set up a landscape, like if I'm landscape painting, and I'm painting landscape, and then as I roll forward, there might be some wildflowers in the foreground, and I might load up my brush and kind of spatter some of those pure color on there, because it's just little hits, that are boom, they're going to pop, because it's they're very, like I just bought some flowers for the house, and they're just this crazy saturated magenta. They're really cool looking. Like that, I might go in with the pure color at the end very sparingly. And then if those wildflowers go back into the distance, I'm going to start to cool them off, desaturate them, and group them together, where I'm not seeing individuals anymore. I'm seeing groups of them with a bigger brush stroke, and they're starting to reduce in value and saturation. Yeah?
Yeah.
Also here, this is probably going to come out a little more based on this side. Yeah.
Yep.
You're going to get a little more of a bump right there. And then another thing here. Okay. So one thing, part of the reason this is flattening out is because you sort of washed in the basic form and then completely discarded the transitions. Okay. Which means this whatever this is, the shirt, I'm going to desaturate this a little. this shirt's going to have some sort of, I don't know, a seam or something here and here probably, right?
Right.
So that's going to help me at least a little. I'm not going to do it everywhere because I just do it where I could see it. I'm just making this up, you know, and then I'm going to go, is there any place where we're getting a little bit of like a fold or anything, or a pull fold? Like I might get one there. And that'll start just the pull fold. I don't do pull fold or folds just to show the folds. I do them because it gives me graphic shapes to go inside of that big shape and start to break it up a little bit so it doesn't look flat, right?
Right.
Like folds and things like that. And I say this about everything, but folds to me are just design tools, okay? Everything's a design tool to me. Shadow values, folds. But once I put down like the pants or something, I got to get some folds in there. Otherwise, it's just going to go completely flat, right?
Right.
And they need to be descriptive, you know, just real simple descriptive. You do not want to overdo folds. You want to simplify them. But the ones you hit, I always call strategic folds. Those are showing something pulling away from something like that. That's a very strategic fold. I'm going forward. It's showing what's happening. I'll get it down here. And, you know, I might just do one of those, not all of them, right? Because I have to interpret. And those just show form, but they also show, like they show form underneath the clothing, but they're also a nice design tool. So it breaks up my flat areas. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just doing this, hang on. I'm going to desaturate it. Just adding a few of these, it'll already start to break this up a little bit. I could also go, this is going a little bit into shadow because it's following this shadow here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is also going to get into shadow a little bit. And then I probably knock this whole, I don't like this brush, hang on. So this one. There's a big jump in value here. I don't like that brush either. There's a big jump in value here. So we've got, let's try this. And this could, if this works, then the solution might be that you do a wash over this whole thing. And okay, another thing, you guys, is sometimes the color, it won't be terrible, but it'll start to piecemeal. Does that make sense? Like they're not, all of a sudden it's usually a value thing, but all of a sudden your colors and things will start to piecemeal and they don't connect. Does that make sense? Somebody?
No, actually, I didn't quite get that.
Okay, so your colors or your shapes will disconnect. Okay, so what happens is you start getting these sort of disconnected shapes and they're not all pulling together and describing the form. Does that make sense?
Okay, that makes a little more sense.
It's really common, okay, early on. I'd argue it's really common, which is why you like to put down a big shape and then work into the shape, because now you got a big shape to lock everything into. But sometimes when the colors will start to disconnect or something like that, you might do a unifying wash over it. So let's say it's this, and I go, these shapes are kind of disconnecting. There's a big value jump here. I think the value jump's probably too big. I might just do a unifying wash over it to sort of unify everything back together again. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Which is what I'm going to try to do here. Also, that value helps quite a bit. So I'm going to go number one. Look how that unifying dark value just pulled everything together. Do you see that?
Okay.
That makes sense, right?
Yeah, I actually really like that.
And what is it? It's really A, I desaturated it, and B, I gave it a nice dark value. You didn't have a big dark value anywhere. right?
Yeah, everything was really light.
Yeah. So
Like
now if you notice, the whole thing just changed, right?
yeah.
It really pulled the face together a lot more,
Okay.
which is what's really weird about this is that you'll be sitting around, like this is a great example of this. Like you'll be sitting around going, I got to do this on the face, and you're starting to overwork an area, right? Overwork it, overwork it, overwork it, overwork it. And then, and I've had teachers do this to me. And then some teacher will come over and go and do something like this and put a darker value in the shirt. And all of a sudden, all the problems in the face go away. And you're like, oh, it wasn't that. It was the shirt. And it's not the shirt specifically. It's like, I needed a dark value. I needed a big dark value in there. Right.
Okay, yeah. I never really thought about that.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons I want to do this class is because everything's relative to everything else in an illustration. Everything has to work. So sometimes you're working on a piece of an illustration. We talked about this, I think, a little bit before. And people will just beat an area to death until they overwork it to death. And then you come over and see it on, it might be in a class, and I see it and I go, put a dark value back there in the background. They go, bink, and boom, it solves the problem. And it was back there. So you always got to kind of look at these things. And by the way, what I just did here falls into the basic design stuff you learned in basic design. This is just a contrast thing, correct?
Yeah.
And then I'm going to take I might take find a, let's get a softer brush. But that's kind of what I mean by unify and wash a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you could roll right over that with a darker value, a more desaturated value, and then work your lighter values over that. So let's try. I don't want it too soft. Let's go. Then I'm going to drop my opacity way down. And let's see what this does. And I could just build up the lights here. It's not going to get screaming light because unless this is like, I don't know, satin or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably in a fairly absorbent material. And I could just build some value here. And I don't want to overdo that either. I just want enough. Oops. I would build this up a little slower. I'm just doing it for time. And I'm changing these brush strokes. I don't like this brush that much, but again, it's a time thing. And I just put a little bit of whatever I need here. Maybe a little bit of a darker hit like you did here. That might be a little dark, but that's okay. Oops. And I build these, I build these things. Okay, does that make sense?
That makes sense.
And then make sure we don't just have this hard cutoff right here with this. I'd also say the lips, because I always want to take advantage of this. This top lip is in shadow. Probably needs to be a little more color in there, but I'm just going to do it for value right now. So the upper lip is usually in shadow. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then here, you got to be careful here because you don't want it to get mixed up with this red blood or whatever it is. Here, you're going to get a cast shadow under here a little bit. You might need that or not, And then this lip is probably going to have a little bit of highlights. Oops, I got to get a different layer. So some of this. Then I get this nose a little more refined. You want to really control your washes. See how it's getting a lot of marks, all this stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And that takes a little bit of time, I get it. But just try and think about that. Because this nose to me, where the hell did it go? Oh, here. No. feels like it should get a little softer. And then that would open me up for a little highlight, which would probably be over the other way a little more. Now in here, clean up this edge a little. This probably should go darker because right now they're too close together. This is better over here. Clean up that edge a little. And then probably maybe a highlight in here somewhere. Maybe just a hint of a cheek mask right there. You got to be careful with younger people. You don't want the cheek mask to get too prominent because it'll start to age them.
I see it.
And then maybe I don't know if I can get away with this one. I'm going to try it. Sometimes I put that little dark divot back there because it blocks out the teeth without me having to put all the teeth. Right?
Right.
Now here, because this is a stylized thing, I might be able to get away with, you know, instead of going, this is something I do a lot, instead of going to this highlight here, I mean, that's a specular thing. I could go to a more saturated red. This might be too much, so let's try it on its own layer. Sometimes in certain cases, you can go, that's probably a little too saturated, but I might be able to do it because it's stylized. I'll go to a little more saturated red to show the highlight. Does that make sense?
Okay.
And I'm thinking about this very much where it's rolling over, like right there, it's rolling over the top part of that lip, which is like a cylinder, so that that highlight's going to get caught on the edge of that cylinder before it dips under. Yeah?
Yeah.
So you could probably do that, and then maybe just a bing, bing, a speculator, and you're out. You don't want to overdo that. You know, and I might even knock it down a little bit. Might not be a, you know, like super pure, but that's knocked back enough where I think it's okay. Here, I might get a few more loose hairs as opposed to all these just big ones. I mean, that's a stylistic choice. That's really up to you. But I like to break up the hair a little bit so it doesn't feel too, either too blocky or too spaghetti, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably come in this ear and, you know, block out a little bit of value in here so we get the ear canal and all that. Again, I'd probably go a little make a statement here. Oops. With this. So maybe we already got a purple, so maybe I'll just match the purple. Or I'll just do something interesting here. Let's try something here. Come on, hang on. Why is it not doing that? There it goes. I'm going to try. Making a smaller shape inside of here. Let's see if we can do this. That's probably fine. I'm going to put this on a different layer. I'm going to say that this is a reflective thing. And maybe it's reflecting some of this color into here. I think I'm going to warm it up a little. Let's see if I can do that. Maybe there. Let's try that. Go a little lighter. And then I'm going to give it like a little horizon reflection in here. And then maybe I don't know what's down underneath, but maybe I'll say there's, I don't know, there's grass down there or something. See if I can get away with this. I want to get two colors in here. Because she could be standing in a grassy area or something, right?
Okay.
And then up here, it's going to have to get hotter. I always like to keep some light into the specularity. Right?
Okay.
You know, it could be a different complementary color or something like that. Okay, does all that make sense?
Yeah, actually.
Okay, good. Now watch this highlight right here on her hair right here.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually going to drift over like that. It's not going to go up like that. It's going to kind of probably follow that curve a little bit. Yeah?
Could you explain?
This highlight right here, you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Is going to go like that more than, hang on, why is it not working? It's going to go probably, what's going on here? I just did something weird. I don't know what I did. That's weird. Hang on. Wow, I don't know what I did. Okay, that's super weird. Let's just flatten it. There it is. This highlight isn't going to go up like that. It's going to probably curve around following this form, right?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah, now I see it.
So you got to think about, you know, how things are wrapping around the form. And in that kind of thing, I kind of look at it as a cylinder. You know, we talked about this. It's like that to me is a piece of a cylinder. Yeah?
Yeah.
And be careful with these two, this one and this one, because they're starting to just sort of become uniform stripes like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you want to find out where are, and that's another thing in here. This, what in the hell is going on here? It keeps not working.
Oh, the earring is still selected.
Oh, that's why. Also, you got to make sure this up here is reading all this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because now we're getting these blue shapes in here. And is that like a Band-Aid?
Yeah, it's just a Band-Aid.
Yeah, they're usually flesh tone and things like that. But if you're getting, I don't know, maybe they make blue ones. I don't know. You got to give me some stuff in there that, because this is starting to become a tangle. I always call that a tangle. Where if I was coming into this, I might be going, what's going on in there? There's just like a lot of shapes and they're not really relating. You know what I mean? Or clear, I should say, right?
I could change them to flesh tone. I thought that because the skin and the hair was already all
I get it.
peachy.
And you know, if I was going to do that, I think that's fine. I think they could be blue because they probably, I'm sure they make Band-Aids and all sorts of different things now. But if you're going to, even if you're going to do it blue, which you could do, you still got to go, okay, this is going, this part of the equation is going away from the light. So this is going to go, you know, because this is following the form. So that's going to go into shadow. That helps already. And then I'm going to come in here and maybe go a little darker, maybe. It's weird. It's showing it's got a lot of green in it, which I'm not seeing. I might give it just a little more value and then go, I'm going to go here because what happens with these things, this is actually going to be a lighter color here. Right there, there's a Band-Aid and then there's a piece of, you know, whatever it is, cotton or whatever, that little pad, right? So what happens is there's two fins and then it pops up and then goes over. So there's a little bit of dimension to that thing, correct?
Correct.
So that's this right here. And then another thing, so let's look at one. They have breathing holes in them. And the reason, and again, all these things are to me are design tools, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they do have blue Band-Aids.
Oh.
Here they are right here. And here's exactly what I just said. Look, right there. There's a light value and then a dark value, right?
Oh yeah, because of the little cotton pad inside.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a little bump in dimension there that you can use, which is what I'm doing here. And then I might come in here and grab this color again and maybe go to a just a round. You know, obviously you'd be doing this with your, and I'd put some of those little breathe holes in it, and it's going to help it to feel more like a Band-Aid, right? You don't have to put them everywhere either, by the way. So that feels a little more like a Band-Aid, right? That value's a little dark that I put the holes with. You know, and again, you don't have to put all of them. You can just put enough. What I usually do is I'll cluster a few and then let them sort of fall off, you know, and then, you know, same thing over here, start to unify those a little bit. But whenever you're, you know, you have an element like on the face like this, it's still going to follow the same logic as going up and over the nose and into the dark value. So that blue is going to get knocked down and darker and move around. You can't just sit there in one value. Otherwise it's just floating flat on the face, right?
Yeah.
Got to follow the form. And also here, a lot of times I go to a little darker value back here. And a lot of times this does happen anyway, for real. For reals, hang on.
What does happen?
This darker value on the back of the head right here.
Oh.
But what else does it do? It just separated the back of the cranium from that hair behind it, and it also just outlined the ear and popped the ear a little bit, right?
Yes.
And it just gave me another value in there to sort of start to show form. So I'm trying to use everything, every tool I've got to try and show form. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any questions about it?
One more actually. I didn't put a lot of thought into the eyes a little bit because
Yeah.
I was I was a little more focused on the hair and trying to get the skin in.
Yeah.
And I kind of didn't work on them very much. But just the stylistic choice wise, would it be okay for me to do those blue lashes, or should I just darken them to the mod sort of like a brownish color
Let's
to
see.
match the rest of the hair?
What's weird here is I don't even see the image here. It's not showing up in our, that is super weird. Like, where did the image go? Oh, there it is. Wow, that's weird. I don't know what that command is.
Oh, it just compiles all of the layers that you're not working on.
Oh, I
The
never knew that.
Yeah, that's the layer that you've been editing on, and then turn it back on. There are all the other ones.
Oh, that's good. I never knew that.
It's a really cool feature.
Yeah, it is. What's it called? Do you know?
I don't actually know what it's called. I kind of found it on accident.
Like I just did.
Yeah,
Okay, what were we just talking about? Oh, the eyelashes.
the eyelashes. I didn't work
best.
on them too much, but could I do that blue, or should I just?
The problem I have with that particular blue is it's also looking very out of the tube.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always going to have a problem with that. So let's see if we can.
Oh, of course.
Let's see if we can just try something here. It's going to be a very half-ass selection. Don't ever make a selection this way. This is
With
really
the magic
half-
wand.
Yeah, magic wand tool. I mean, there's a few instances where the magic wand tool is fine, but not very much. Yeah, that does not want to select. Oh, no, that's better. Okay, that'll work. Okay, so let's go and let's take this same color. And here's another thing that's good. You know, I don't think doing color comps in Illustrator is a good, or in Photoshop is a good idea when you're going to go to traditional paint. It makes no sense because you don't know what you mixed. But for just figuring out general color schemes and figuring out little problems like this, it's great, right?
Right.
Because what I'm going to do here is, I think I just put it on there. Hopefully. Yeah. And I'm going to go, first I'm going to do is I'm going to try desaturating it. Which is a little better. See how it's a little better when it's not screaming?
Yep.
So then let's try a different thing. Let's go back to our color. And then another thing I like to do real quick is I'll just roll through the color spectrum here. And I'll just go, is there a better solution just color wise? And it looks to me like it's more about desaturating. It can be desaturated. It's not so bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's better. And then you're kind of pulling that cool idea up into the face. That's fine. And then another thing I might do here. So I might get a little, whatever, maybe a gray value. Let's see. And this is something you do with portraiture really simply. Like you don't overdo it. But you might cast a little bit of gray off the eyelid. See how it gives it a little bit of dimension?
Mm-hmm.
So now the eyes have a little bit more dimension, you know, and you're just sort of, you know, you got to keep it really subtle and stuff. But it'll roll the eye back a little bit because that eye's, you know, it's got a curve also, right?
Yep.
And then I don't know, maybe, yeah, it's probably fine. Then I'd clean this up a little here. Pull some of that over a little bit. There we go. Get this up here unified. That's too much. Maybe there. Yeah, maybe there. And that's basically what I would do. Yeah.
Okay.
And also this is that oh, that's her belly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Make sure, you know, I'd work in there a little just to make sure that I know that's what it is. And I'll put this video up for anything on set on here in case you forget. Yeah.
Okay.
But one thing I was going to say is this value right here is jumping too far. It's too dark. And then get some value in the eyes. I'd probably mix a little more of a, maybe this color over here and here, but the mustache could go a little bit greenish, which I don't have a problem with. Maybe a little more value down here. And I might break up the hair just a hair more, even though I think this up here is working pretty good. Okay, Elizabeth,
Yeah.
what are you asking me?
So see his shirt
Yeah.
on the right side. I need help with that. And then his lips. I'm not sure how to. To get his lips right.
Okay, with the lips, usually, and I don't know if there's different solutions like here, and I don't know if this is going to work or not. The other
See,
thing,
you want to see this? Oh, here. Let me
can you
turn
send me the photo?
Well, so I'm changing a little. I'm redoing it to make it more like him instead of what the artist did. But
see.
this is the picture I think he used.
Yeah, that's it.
But
Can you send me that picture?
yeah, sure.
I want the printout. Send me the printout.
Okay.
Who is that anyway?
Waylon Jennings.
Oh,
Who
okay.
is that? I
You
just
know who Waylon Jennings is, man.
hey, don't call me a fangirl.
That's not fangirl. You can do country music, dudes. Like cool country music, dudes, all you want in here. I love country music, man. Old country, man. I don't like that new shit.
Yeah.
I heard
probably
some,
go-
I heard some country song not too long ago. I don't know why I heard it because I don't really listen to that. God, it was horrible. Hang on a second. I'm gonna get another cup of coffee. Hang on.
So on the new drawing I did, I widened his face, tried to make it look a little more like him.
He's a pretty rough looking dude.
Yeah.
He always looked like, and I think it's because he always looks super hungover. You ever notice that about him?
Yeah.
Like he always looks like sweaty and hungover, and and I'm like, shit. And then that time period, I think he quit that at some point, but in that time period, they were all drinking like crazy people.
Yeah.
And taking
Have you watched what is it called? The Road Tours or something like that? It's the guy who did King of the Hill.
No.
What is it called? Tales from the Road. And it's the guys who did King of the Hill. But it's so good. They have a Waylon Jennings one. They have
Is it animated?
yeah, but
Oh, wow.
they really have people who knew them telling their stories, but they animate it.
See, I love that kind of stuff.
You have to look at it. It's
Where did you see it at? What's it on?
Do you know what it's on?
It's on.
That's my assistant.
Or is it- Well, you should have your assistant talk to my assistant about this.
Okay.
Our imaginary assistants.
Oh, Cinemax.
Oh, it's on Cinemax. I don't have Cinemax, but
Yeah.
I'll see if there's another option.
My
Yeah.
assistant is sleeping on the couch right now.
My
But
assistant's
it's really
flying
good. And
around
they have,
outside.
like they have other ones, James Brown or somebody else, but it's a whole, they do it's like 4 episodes of Waylon Jennings. So it's all animated, but it shows how he like flushed the cocaine down the toilet.
Yeah, I was gonna say
It's
gonna be
really
all
cool.
crazy stuff.
But it's
huh?
like his son not narrates, but tells story. It's really cool.
You know who they should do is Keith Richards' son. Because Keith Richards was such a, everybody knows he was super, his life was super weird, but when they were on tour in certain places, he would take all these back roads. He wouldn't travel with the band because he was always traveling with drugs and stuff. And he's super weird, but
Mike Judge.
he'd have his kid who was like, I don't even think he was 16 at the time. His kid would drive him around in this car full of drugs and stuff, trying to stay out of the, anybody finding him and pulling him over. He was like totally crazy. And his kid is like super normal, which is weird.
That's funny.
I think a lot of kids who go through craziness like that with their parents, they go the other way. They just, I don't want nothing to do with that because they saw the ugly side of it.
Mhm.
All right. So one thing is value. It's the same thing we we're talking about with I think it was Cassandra's. So there's a lot of value in this hat. Now, however much color is in there, I don't know. Because that photo's been super, I don't like that. I'd find somewhere, and this up here, I might go a little lighter on up on the top part, maybe. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we want to get, it's the same thing we're talking about with Cassandra. You want to get some value in here. Now let's try something else. I had a really cool student. He goes, hey, I want to do the plein air thing. He goes, but if you can't do it on Saturday or Sunday, I probably won't be able to do it because I got to work or whatever. He goes, but I'll still pay for it and just to donate it to the model. That was really cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
I think I'm just gonna do it on the weekend. It seems like everybody, that's when they can do it.
Mhm.
Okay, let's see if I can find because I need some sort of reference for, I mean, I can make it up, but I don't want to do that in here. Hang on.
And I was looking up, trying to find like folds in shirts, man holding guitar, trying to get that front arm
I don't think you're too
fold
off.
right, but
I don't think you're really all that off. Like here's, this is probably fine. Or maybe this, let's see. I think here's a good example right here of him looking super hungover, right?
mhm.
I see people still doing that, and I'm like, why do you want to be hungover all the time? I don't get it.
Nope. Doesn't look pleasant to me.
It's not actually. So this, I'm just gonna flip it so the light's kind of doing the similar thing. Wait, the light is going. The light's coming from. Well, it's hard to tell where that light. It feels like it's coming from up above, almost straight. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll just say. So all I'm looking at here are color, right?
Mhm.
Because it's still not good. Hang on.
Judging by the picture, I'm expecting him to eat the cigarette.
Let's go. Here's one for any fold reference. Right?
Oh yeah.
That's not too bad. And then I just want one more, because that picture of him has been really photoshopped. What I'm trying to get is a little bit better reference on his hair, just for color. Man, is there any pictures of him that are like?
I know it was hard to find any.
I mean, there's a
color.
million pictures of him because he's so legendary, but all of them are like either black and white or aren't showing a lot of color.
Oh, Robert, he's the voice. He's the narrator on Dukes of Hazzard.
Oh, okay.
Which has also now been deemed unwatchable. You know that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Them Duke boys have been spotted by a bit of trouble there.
I was just talking about this last night. This generation is completely firebombing everything.
They're missing out.
Yeah.
And they're going like they're creating a world that they don't really realize they're going to have to step into as adults.
Yeah.
Right. So because I just saw that okay, so like every award shows are over, right? Because every time they have a award show now, all of them jump in and go, well, there wasn't enough diversity, there wasn't enough this, it wasn't enough that. I was offended about this and I was offended about that. And they just keep doing this where everybody's like, what are we supposed to do? No matter what we do, we offend you guys. You know, we bend over backwards, we make all these concessions to all this stuff, and it's fine. It's not like, you know, they're not anti-diversity. It's just something that needs to get built into it a little more and all that. And then, so the Golden Globes, there's some problem now with the Golden Globes. I don't know what it is, but again, it's millennials all talking about it or whatever. And then NBC, who usually runs that, just goes, we're out, we're done. You know what I mean? It's like, what are you guys doing? Like, and then they do it with every movie that comes out, every show that comes out, every series that comes out is being just hyper criticized on all these weird, where there's going to be a point where, you know, it's like, what are you going to be able to make?
I think it's sort of like how like people treat like fanboys, like they'll never be pleased no matter what you
Yes.
do.
It's actually, I think this whole thing started with fanboy culture, because fanboy culture was allowed to start to, when they do Comic-Con in San Diego, all the directors who were making big movies at that time have to go down and do their pilgrimage down there and satisfy these people that they're paying enough attention. It's ridiculous. Okay. And what they don't understand is that, okay, now you're going to go into a career potentially, and now you're going to have to play by these rules that you created. You're not going to like it. You know, nobody's going to like that. Nobody likes being that hyper criticized on like every level. And then I don't know if you guys know, this thing's gone on with the school with that teacher. Did you guys see that? Right. So now they're saying, oh, no, it wasn't. She was playing a role, and like, okay, that's fine. I don't know.
No, she wasn't.
No, I think she might have been.
I don't know.
Well, the
That's-
kid, they found pictures of the kid on his Facebook page, apparently doing like white pride signs with his dad.
Oh.
And he's on Fox News, and he's using all that Fox News language. So okay, I already got played on this once because I got really pissed off when I saw that, because I didn't think that was correct behavior on her part, because that's all I saw, right? And now now the school or whoever's coming in, it's usually, it's a bunch of professors and things, and they're coming in and going, oh no, I saw the video. It's some guy who's now taken over her class goes, I saw the video, and I'm like, I don't care at this point. I either want to see the whole video or shut up about it. I don't want to hear it, because I already got played on this. I already made a comment about it. Now I wish I hadn't, because I read it wrong if what they're saying is true.
Yeah.
And it's like, now I don't know if I trust you guys, that now you're spinning it your way, but you won't show me the video. Right. But anyway, translation, down at the district office this week, all these people showed up to protest, and they're calling for this president of Cyprus to resign. It's like, you guys don't even know what happened. Like, none of us even knows what happened. And you're down there calling for this person's career to be over.
Yeah,
That's
that-
what worries
you
me.
didn't
And it's
do
like,
it.
these kids are going to walk into that same culture. And it's like, if this happens to you, you can't cry about it.
Mhm.
If you make some off-color joke at lunch after you've had a couple too many drinks, I guess you're going to lose your job over it. Right?
Well, didn't they say she's not coming back? Why would they get on his case?
Because everybody wants to have a cause to go and protest about and take pictures of themselves on Instagram with their sign, because that's all that's about. I mean, I think there's some people who actually care about it, obviously. But I've gone to these things when I was doing this stuff for NPR. I've gone to a lot of, rallies and things like that. And the one thing I found out about these rallies now is it doesn't feel like anybody's really passionate about anything or knowledgeable about anything. 90% of them are just there to take selfies. And stand on their soapbox and hashtag everything. And, here I am with my sign at the whatever march thing. I've seen it with the Women's March. I've seen it. I mean, all kinds of stuff. And then when you ask people, because I go around talking to people and I ask them about it, they don't know anything about this subject. Right. And then they start sloganeering. They start giving you slogans, whatever side they're on. It might be Fox News, and they're giving you slogans from Fox News, or on the left, wherever they're, the internet or whatever they're getting theirs. But then I go, okay, that's sloganeering.
man.
Those are hashtags and memes and things. You're saying, what's your opinion on this? And they don't know anything about it. You know what I mean? And I talked to a couple of kids about this over at Claremont when they were doing that. And I go, so you're out here calling for this guy's head. In this case, it was a cop. I go, you're calling to end his career, which they did, and for him to go to jail and all this stuff. And I go, you don't even know what happened. None of us even know what happened yet. They haven't finished investigating it yet. They haven't finished looking at the video footage of all this stuff yet. And you're out here calling for this guy's career to be over, which it was. I don't think that's right. Now, if I think that guy did, and it all pans out and it turns out he did something like that, sure, then he should be fired. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think you can go around firing people for some dumb comment they made 10 years ago.
Right. And
Some
people
murky
can't redeem
comment.
themselves
Huh?
when people can't redeem themselves once they get.
And I get it. If you're in a position of hiring and all that kind of stuff, then you got to be, square about it. I get it. All right. I can't find that. Maybe this. Because I'm trying to figure out exactly what color his hair is. And this one feels the closest. But what I might also do, okay, let's say he's got brown hair. I can just pull anybody with brown hair that's similar, right? Because brown hair is kind of brown hair. So let's see. Yeah, let's just do this. Because what I don't want to do is have all this stuff in his hat all start to become sort of a version of brown,
Mhm.
right? Now, one thing I can do here also, I can make up whatever situation he's in, right? So if I say he's outside, I can also come in here because down facing planes like this hat brim, right? Are trying to find where that is, are going to pick up, if it's a lit environment, it can pick up some warmth bouncing back up into it. So why does that matter? It matters to me because I'm trying to find places to pump a little color in there. Does that make sense? So,
Yes.
and it's going to take a little bit of experience for you to get used to this because I'm sort of making decisions that aren't necessarily in my reference. And you'll find out, hopefully, it's another reason I want to do this class is you got to learn how to work from photo reference. And then you got to learn, and it takes a while. You got to learn how to go, okay, how am I going to get a little color into this? Because I want to always get color into things, right? And that's why I think plein air painting is so important, by the way, because when you go out plein air painting, you'll start understanding all this. You'll start looking at things and going, that's an overhang and it's underneath. How come that's not going cool? It's a shadow. Well, because this is a very lit environment. It's bouncing off the ground. It's bouncing basically a neutral orange up into that thing. And man, when you start learning that stuff and you pop it in there, you're like, whoa, that thing just sings. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's really cool, actually. I'm going to warm this up a little.
And he does sing.
Yeah. Let's just do it with a rough brush. Let's try this. I mean, this is going to be too much, I know. But I'm going to knock it down. And I'm also going to give it a little more color. You know what? I think I have an example of this too, by the way. So,
your
also,
photo- oh,
go
sorry.
ahead. What?
Your Photoshop class is not online, it's in person?
It's online.
Okay.
I think I'm going to try and do it every summer online because that class is really easy to do online. It works great. And also, I think it's because I want to, I mean, all of the three of us do. We want to really make sure, and we wanted to do this before the pandemic, but this has forced us into doing it also now. Why not do it? We want to have a really robust online program. It'll probably eventually, hopefully, what I'd like to do is I'll do, one or two here. And I like being in the classroom, but for summertime, it's great. But, really get some really great adjunct. What I really want to do is I'm working on one right now, is get some really great adjuncts who are pretty active or are active in their career right now and are super great, but they probably wouldn't teach because they're in Burbank or Glendale and and by the time they get off work and they're not gonna have time to drive in that traffic all the way to Fullerton, I'm going to get them to do online classes, right? And build a really good stable of online people who are just hopefully, I'd like to get most of them in the industry, right?
Mhm.
So I'm trying to get one right now who she has a heavy, extensive background in character design for everything from Powerpuff Girls to Samurai Jack. She's just did Cuphead. She's done, I think she's back over at Disney again. She's amazing. And I
Sounds
probably
like it.
couldn't get her. I don't even know if I can get her teacher. I'm going to meet with her for lunch. We're supposed to do it this month. And then I'm going to try and rope her in.
Reeler and
I'm excited about it, actually. I'm excited about the opportunity to be able to do that. So something a little more like that. I'll knock it down a little bit. Okay, so see, now we got a little color going on in there, right?
Mhm. So if it was a black, like his vest is going to be black, would you do a blue for the lighter color if you're working with black?
It depends on what the color environment I'm saying he's in is.
Mm.
So I'm thinking of Waylon Jennings. Of course, he's a country guy. I always think of him being in the desert, the Southwest, Texas,
Mhm.
and there's going to be a lot of light and warmth in that environment, right? Now, if I want to say, it depends on what lighting I set up here. That's up to me, right? I'm not going to change my, if it's a black hat, I'm still going to bounce some warmth into it. If the environment is like what I just said. So and my brain right away usually goes, what's the environment? right? How can I use the environment to my advantage to create color? Because what tends to happen when people are first learning how to paint, I did this, everything was just sort of gray. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I was looking at other paintings going, why are those sparkle like that? Those paintings just sparkle. And a lot of it, I mean, it's value, but a lot of it, I didn't realize until late, a lot of it was just temperature and finding places like I'm talking about right now where I could pop. Because to me, all I'm thinking about with that underneath the hat is that's just a temperature thing to me. It's a place, but look how much difference it made. It
Mhm.
made a lot of difference, right? And if you notice now his flesh tones are working a little better.
Mhm.
And again, I haven't touched the flesh tones, right?
Right.
Now, another thing I might do. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go, well, how can I establish this? Because his hair seems to like verge on black. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Like every picture of him, I can't really find a lot of color in it.
Either black or like a dark brown.
Yeah, I think it's a dark brown, but it doesn't look like, and I don't know if it's just the now up here, I'm going to loosen this up. So what I'm probably going to do, he has pretty dark hair, it looks like. I'll leave a little of that lighter value in there and loosen this up a little. He was always, his hair and everything usually was kind of a little bit disheveled looking. I don't know if you've ever noticed that.
Mhm.
I like this hair right here. That's great. I'm going to fix that back there or just fill that back there. And then I might try and find somewhere. If this is the same lit environment, that's not, I don't like that one. Probably have to be a little lighter. That's too much. I got to find just a little bit of. Got to find a nice little lighter value. You know, just maybe where his hair is getting hit with like a little bit of light. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then another thing, he's got this big hat on. So one thing I always take, you can see it here a little bit with this guy, and even a little here. I usually will use that. Again, he's got it tilted back a little bit. It looks like you did a little bit already, but I'm probably going to come in here. And say that hat's casting a little bit of a shadow over his head a little bit. Right?
Right.
Then I can also.
Did you do that with like a
I
super
just
light
do it with a
gray?
little darker flesh tone wash.
Mm.
Right? You would think it goes cool. It doesn't always go cool. A lot of times it just is like a little more darker brownish warm value is all it is. So I might throw a little more burnt sienna in there or something like that. Sometimes it goes cool. It doesn't usually. You know, and I don't want to overdo it. Now, again, I'm trying to block out the face. I'm trying to get shapes in here. Now, in here. And again, I might come in here and go, I'm going to go in here and get a little darker value. And again, if I got light bouncing up in here, oh, that's why that's weird. Hang on. God damn it. Now, he's also going to have a little bit of an ice, whatever you call it, lid.
Yeah.
Might break up a little of that. He's also going to have probably a little here. I might try and lighten this up just a hair. You got to be careful. People over lighten the eye, the whites of the eyes, and it just gets really weird. You don't want to overdo it. Yeah. And then he's going to have some pretty good. I'm going to take some of this warmth here and see if I can do this. Yeah, it's got to go a little darker. I'm going to get a little of that iPad under there. iPad. Probably might go a little darker with that later, but for now it'll work. Oops. Because what I don't want these things to do is start disconnecting where they feel like individual pieces. That's why I like to build it. That makes sense?
Yes.
Okay, and then in here, in this eye, there's a socket here. So I'm going to get a little darker value in here and maybe build some of that business in here. There's a socket in here. There's going to be some darks in here. It looks like you started building it. Again, I'm trying to keep the flesh tones with a little bit of life in them. He's got a dark value right there. And you see how we're starting to kind of build the form on the face a little bit?
Yeah, it looks really good.
And then you've already
So
started
how do you
this.
know whether to go like pink though? Like under the eyelids, I would have thought it would have gone like a more,
It could go a little lighter value sometimes.
but that looks, I like that.
That,
But
I
I
know
just
that
don't know how
from-
to
I know
determine.
that from looking at people.
Mm.
Okay. And there's certain places that are going to get a little warmth a lot. Like a lot of times that little pad under the eye might get a little bit of warmth. A lot of times it goes a little darker, you know,
Mhm.
it could go a little darker than that. But what I'm doing here is I'm building.
Okay.
I'm not trying to go bang. There's the value, right? I'm going, okay, that's kind of working. And I might build it up a little bit. Even digitally like this, right? Now, if I'm doing all a Prima painting where I'm painting or print plein air or whatever, you know, I got to lock it in a little quicker, a little faster, a little looser because it's, you know, I'm trying to get it done in one sitting. If I got the luxury of time like I do with a piece like this, I'm going to build it. You know, I want to build it. I want to build a lot of shapes and layers in a very natural, organic way. And then it's going to have this nice, very finished sort of, you know, when people look at it, they'll go, because they're going to do what I used to think. Oh, wow. They go in and they go, boom, and they put that shape and then boom, they put that value and then boom. And it's not how they work. You know, it's doing what I said. They don't wash in a big thing and big idea. And then they sort of focus it in, you know, that's usually how things are done. Now I'm also going to push some things. You've already started doing it here. And this is going to be screaming, but I'll adjust it. I might even put some of that over here, especially with this dude who was hungover or looks hungover all the time.
He
He's
always
gonna,
looks like he's drinking.
yeah, he's going to get some warmth on the nose, and no, it's not going to stay this crazy. I'm just doing it because it's digital.
He looks like a clown.
There, a little more like that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Wayne
And
Jennings, the red nose, the country singer.
And then he's got a, okay, so now I might try and get that. You've already started this too. So this lighting's kind of weird because it's coming from, and then he's going to have, he's got, let's see if I can, yeah, let's see if I can get it from here. So that's too dark. Let's get it here. You know, he's got, man, I hate it when Photoshop does that. He's got a pretty good, And you notice what I'm trying to do with the flesh tones and things is I'm trying not to go too dark too fast or too black or whatever.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like some people go so dark with the value, it starts to read as like no color in it.
Mhm.
Trying to keep color in everything. Okay. And the reason I'm emphasizing that so much is there's a couple of things, and I probably said this, that if I can make you aware of, you'll start to be aware of them, you will accomplish them faster. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So all this thing that I learned about temperature and everything, it's not like they didn't teach me, I had really good training. I'm not saying I didn't, but there was just certain things that like I figured out. Nobody told me. I just figured them out. I don't want you guys to figure them out, because if you don't have to figure them out, that means it takes the walking around in the dark years out of it, right? You just start to go, oh, that's how you get that kind of sparkly look. It's temperature and value. Okay, I got it. So I got to really focus on, because what people always focus on is color, which is great because you got to focus on color. But what and this probably sounds obvious, but it's not. What I realize is like, it's all about temperature, right? It's not just going, that's red and I'm kind of reducing. It's like, no, what kind of red is that? Is it orangey red? Is it a neutral red? Is it starting to go cool? Can I bounce? This is a very lit green environment, outside or something. I can bounce some green in there a little bit. And then people always go, well, it's not bouncing green there. It's like, but it can. So I'm going to, because it's going to make it more interesting. And I know that can happen. So it's not a bunch of decisions where I'm going, hey, well, throw green in it, because I used to see this all the time when I was younger. Whoever, really great illustrators or whatever, I'd see that type of thing where I'd go, I remember seeing this painting of a skull one time. It's by an artist I don't even like that much, but and there was just like every color you could think of in that skull, right? But when you first looked at it, you go, it just looks like a skull, man. It looks cool, like just natural or whatever. Then I started looking, I'm like, there's purple in there, there's green in there, there's red in there. How in the hell is that happening? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
A lot of it's this idea just taken a little further. It's the same idea as like, I can bounce some light in there. And then once you start doing that, you start going down the rabbit hole going, oh, I can knock a little purple in there and that'll kind of cool it down right there. And then you start getting some more complicated color in there and little variations and things. And it really makes things sing. That's what makes things start to jump up to a pro level, right? Okay. It's got a really high highlight right there. It's going to have one there. And again, this is all a building process. So anything I put down, I'm going to probably have to react to and around the form. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Like here, he's also got a pretty heavy, what happened? He's also got a pretty heavy highlight right here. Now, I always have to build up to those highlights. Okay. Those highlights, I'm probably going in a little early. That's just because I want to talk about them.
Mhm.
But I got to make sure that all my other values are working and I'm building up to the highlight. Okay. What you see a lot is like, I can't get a specular highlight on my shiny head. But like I saw one, I don't know if I ever said this. We were doing we're doing a crit in class when I was at Art Center. And there was a student there that he did really cool oil paintings, but he did this portrait of whoever, I don't remember. It was a big portrait. And the teacher goes, what do you guys think? And I go, the highlight doesn't work. And he goes, well, why not? And I go, because there's no mid value and then there's no highlight or high value. And then into the specularity. What it's doing is going mid value, bam, into specularity, right? There has to be the build up to specularity, unless it's like a car window where it's just like that screaming blast of specularity on it. That's sort of different. But I'd argue it's still probably going to a lighter value and then up to specularity, right? Because you have to think about your highlights as your dark mids and highs, then your specularity. What people do is they think of specularity as the high value, and it's not usually. It's dark, medium, highlight, or high value, then into your specularity. And it might even be another layer that's a little hotter than even the lighter value. And then, it has to stair step into it. In other words, the values have to set up the not just specularity, but the highs, right? Like if you look at this thing right here, look at this. This look right here. It's sort of this dark, and then right there it goes to a mid, and then it swings over and gets right into the high. You see that? Light, mid, dark, light, dark, light, mid, or dark, mid, light. You see it?
Mhm.
Right there. Dark, mid, light. Okay. If you just go dark, light, it doesn't work. It completely separates it and looks like just a big shape, right?
Mhm.
And by the way, that's also your friend in acrylic, because a lot of times the way acrylic used to be formulated, and it's a lot better now with open, but if you're using Liquitex, it's still like this. If I go in and I go, because people will bitch about acrylic, and they'll go, well, it always gets hard edges. And I go, well, then what you do, like when you're doing a soft edge like this on a cheek, you go literally your dark, and you just got to mix them like really right on, and then your mid, and then your light, and they'll roll optically. If you hit the right values, they will roll optically and start to look like a softer value, right? So if you have a hard edge medium like acrylic, or if it's something that's dried and it's got a hard edge, you don't have to worry about it as much with acrylic or with gouache, because you can go back. You might want to go in there and go to soften that transition. You might want to find that value right in between the two that are a problem.
Mm.
Like it might be that you jump too high to the light, and you just got to put that little mid or whatever in there, and it'll start to roll visually, right?
Okay.
Same thing here, where you get that little pitch shadow in there, right here, and then it rolls into like kind of a mid here, and then into a high. Boom, there it is right there. There's the higher value, there's the mid value, and then it rolls into here, and then it's got a darker pit value inside of it, right?
Mhm.
A lot of times these kind of divots will have a little dark pit shadow in there, right? And then another thing I'm going to do here, because this one I might be able to use this, this reference. Yeah. Let's go here. Oops. Because this is giving me this is what I was looking for. I want some color info on his beard. That way, yeah. Because now you've laid down the basis for it. Now I can come in here and get a little color in there, right?
Mhm.
Where it's catching the light. Don't want to overdo it. Just do it like they're doing it there. Here, this could probably go a little darker here. So it's rolling under. Nice thing about gouache is I can do basically the same thing I'm doing here, where I can kind of work over it back and forth. And again, I want to get a little bit of color in there, right? And then again, I'm probably going to take a little of this and roll it into the flesh tone a little bit. Because again, it doesn't usually just die into the flesh tone, right?
Mhm.
So we're starting to get a little more. Now his mouth. Okay, one thing about his mouth that you haven't got here, it looks like, okay, is that this shape here? That's his beard right there, right? This
Right.
shape? Yeah?
Mhm. Yes.
It looks more like let's try it. I don't know if I'm right or not. Let's put another layer over this. I want to take this out, and then I'm going to take some of this. And in this case, it's sort of, it's right up under his lip, right?
Mhm.
Which is defining the bottom of his lip, right?
Yes.
What was that? Okay, I don't know what's going on. All right. So it looks like it needs to go a little darker. So it's serving two purposes. It's part of his beard or whatever. So that means this could probably come up a little. But that I don't really care about that one way or the other. The other thing, okay, so see how that's starting to define the bottom of his lip?
Yes.
And then this bottom lip is probably, because it's an up facing plane, it's probably going to get a little light. You can see how light it is here in this reference, right?
Mhm.
But I'm not going to just paint it all. I'm going to leave some of the other stuff in there. There. See how that's starting to define his lip?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what I was going to do is go up and darken the upper lip, but the problem with that is because usually that upper lip is in shadow. We've talked about this, right?
Yes.
Okay. But if I do that here, what's the problem?
It all will just be muddy, I think.
It'll
Like,
all start to unify with his mustache.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you'll just have this weird dark shape and you're like, what is that? So
Yeah.
instead I'm just letting it stay in that mid value range where you got it, which I think is fine. And I just lighten the bottom lip a little bit. Right?
Right.
And then I'm going to go here maybe, because again, that's, someplace where I'm probably going to get specularity because it's, your lips are wet or whatever, which sounds gross.
London.
Let's do it here. Let's grab that value. And I'm just going to put a little bit of specularity there. A little too much. Let's knock it down. And maybe, and I'm not sure if I can get away with this. I don't know if it needs it or not. I might put a little bit of that separating the lips. I don't even know if it needs it. I kind of want to let the top lip sort of do that work. That's not too bad. Now, I might be able to take some of this, warm up the bottom of his eyes a little bit. Why? Because whatever's bouncing off the ground, maybe it's bouncing up into the bottom of his eyes a little bit, right? Then I'm going to go, and I like to always keep a little color. Let's say sunlight, so I'll use this yellow. And I just try and keep a touch of color in there. You can see when you get that highlight in there, it sort of immediately gives them a little bit of life, right?
Mhm.
And then I'm also going to go same things we talked about with that other one. Let's put this on its own layer. I might get a little of that cast thing off the eye. Let's do that, but I'm going to pull it way down. Just get a little bit of that cast shadow off the eye. I'd probably have to build up the values on his shadows on these, like, whatever you call those. There's also, it looks like quite a bit of, oops. Quite a bit of value here. So this has to carry through. There's some value there. There's a nice value right there. And notice on my light values, I've got a little bit of warmth in there. They're flesh tony. Okay, we don't want things to get gray. It's really easy for things to get gray. A little bit of here. So that, now I'm starting to go, okay, I'm really using that right side light source a lot, which is fine. He's got a little bit up here. A little bit of value up there. And I can still get away with that in that darker thing. Could be some bounce light in there. I might take this, and again, and here's the thing with this kind of photo, or photos in general, you got to be careful because they lie. Okay. And they lie a lot with value. Okay. So I see people all the time and they start, and I get it. It's, they think that the photo is really accurate, and in a way it is. I get it, but in a way it's not. It's averaging values, okay. And so most of the time, now cameras are always getting better, but most of the time, if you notice, it's going to throw things. It's going to go, oh, you want me to get this photo with that super bright sky up there and then all this stuff in the foreground? Well, the stuff in the foreground is probably going to go really dark, right? And all the shadows are basically going to almost look black. That's what that little function on your iPhone is, where you're looking at something, you can tap a certain area and it'll readjust the values because you're going, well, adjust it around the lights. Okay, this gets a little better. And sometimes it's not too bad, but it's still, you look in the shadows and they look black. They're not black usually. They're not that dark usually. They're not going to black. They're going to a 7 or an 8 maybe. And then there's usually some color in there. And so a lot of times it's just because it's averaging, it's just losing a lot of color information, all that kind of stuff, which to me is why you need to go draw from life and paint from life. Because then you come back into this and you know all this stuff because you see it all the time and you're doing a lot of mileage with it. Does that make sense? Yeah? Or are you guys frozen or am I frozen?
No,
Elizabeth looks
Wait.
frozen. Elizabeth.
you there?
I think she's frozen because she's frozen on my screen.
I think you're frozen too.
It's frozen.
How dare you?
No, from where I'm looking, you're both frozen.
Okay, give me a second. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Give it a second. Usually it'll catch up.
like on Wednesday, Phil like froze, and then we had like everything froze like on his end, and then we got kicked back to like the different like people's panels.
Hey,
Sorry.
Elizabeth, what
Yeah.
happened?
My computer died. I
Really?
plugged it in too and it died anyway.
It's starting back.
So I'm here now. Sorry about that.
Okay. All right. So see how he's starting to get some life in that face a little bit?
Yes.
Whoa.
Sorry. Okay, my computer turned back on. I'm trying. Sorry.
What's going on?
You have two things on. That's why.
She ascended.
'Cause
Oh,
I've-
I think I know why mine's frozen.
everybody can hear me though, right?
Yeah,
Am I moving?
And
from my end, no,
You're
but
moving.
that's only because my computer froze.
Elizabeth, am I moving?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that. I was trying to not miss
So
what you
yeah,
were
my
saying,
end
so I
is
logged on
frozen.
my phone.
I won't accept your apologies.
I'll keep listening because the only way I can fix it is to turn off the actual computer.
Oh, you can just dip out and just dip back in. It's fine. Okay, now
Okay.
here. Okay, here's another thing, Elizabeth. It's sort of the
Be right
same thing.
back.
You guys are going to see that I'm going to start repeating myself because this is what we talked about with, I think it was Cassandra's. This might need just a blast of value. And also, what's he wearing? A denim shirt?
Yeah, I was gonna put him in a denim
Yeah.
shirt.
That denim, it's a kind of a specific color. So some of this is now going to start coming into just value stuff. Give me a second here. I like that thumb. Let's try this. And then I'll desaturate it. Yeah?
Okay.
Let's desaturate. Well, first let's do this. Let's just get a nice overlay. There we go. See what a difference that makes? It's value. It's value in color, right? So now we're trying to get some color in here to break it up a little bit. Yeah. Now, what usually happens with denim, and I'd have to do this. I'd have to do this with a rougher brush, like maybe. Let's see what this is. Okay, now I'm probably gonna have to go in here. And this is the only thing I have here. And maybe get
I'm back.
some of this reinforced so it's a little, you know, my darks are reading a little better. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And it's still, let's get a different brush. I don't like this brush. You know, and I might just put a little bit of dry brush on it. What the hell's going on? A little bit of dry brush. Why is that going into purple? That's weird. Why am I seeing? It's weird. I don't know what's doing that. And just sort of reinforce my darks. Ignore that that's going a little purple because I'm not sure what's going on there. And then also, like where I can, like see this small shapes over here? There was like 2 small shapes there. See that? You there?
Yes, I see.
I'm gonna go in and just unify that a little bit. I don't think I need that many shapes going on. I don't know why this. Hang on. I'm gonna try and fix this. There, that's better. Why it was doing that? Here. Now another thing, it's still going purple. That's super weird. I don't know what's doing that. Okay, here, because there's some hair over that, maybe under here. And here's the thing with folds, you don't want to overdo them. And then what happens with this is denim has this thing it does where wherever it gets rubbed out a little bit old, it gets to this like lighter value, like you get in the knees and stuff on jeans, right? But it sort of just does that all the time. So I'm just going to see if I can go a little lighter. I don't know why everything is going, this is super weird. Everything's going like gray. So I'm going to try and pull it back into being blue again. Which is weird. It lets me do that, but it's okay. Now I'm going to go a little lighter. Little lighter, a little more desaturated. But there's still a little bit of blue in it. And I'll hit those here and there. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You know, here. And I probably do it with here and there with a little bit of dry brush in there. So it starts to get some texture.
Mhm.
So now we're starting a little full. And then here's another thing. Depending on what kind of shirt it is. I might be a little bit of. There's a lot of these denim things that's stitching.
Okay.
And again, that's I don't care if it's actually there. God, man. I'm totally echoing. And like here, I'll keep it pretty subtle. But see, it'll give you some design. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And,
And then
break
his,
it up. You know, like this buttons. I don't know what color. These are probably dark. I don't like that. What color are oh, they're dark. So let's go. I don't want to go back. I'm gonna go here.
and then his chest, I don't want to go like, I think darker than his face might get too dark.
No, you don't want to go.
Mm.
Let's see. Oops.
Oh, it's actually pretty bright.
Well, that's his. Oh, and then he's got these cool Western guitar strap.
Mhm. I started to draw that on.
Yeah. And that again, itching. He's got that rope stitching in it.
Mhm.
I love that.
Yeah.
If I could walk around in those cool old country clothes, I totally
Mhm.
like Porter Wack.
Denim on denim.
I went to Tandy's leather shop yesterday trying
So
to get
crazy to me those still exist.
Tandy's.
Yeah, it's cool.
Oh, but no one can help me with my project. I can't find anybody, but there's this guy on Instagram, but he doesn't speak English.
What's the project?
With my beadwork, I want to put it on a leather strap. I want to do some leather work, but I can't find some like,
Have you looked on YouTube?
yeah,
Wow,
but
you
it's
can't find it on there.
mixed. You know,
Huh?
it's like different people have different techniques, but it's not what I'm looking.
Did you go to the library? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this lighter value for his chest. Now, I'd probably usually start with the darker value, but I just want to build this up. And then he's sort of cast this way. Got to go a little darker.
Or online people will say, bring the leather to a leathering place to have them punch the holes. It's like, no, might as well have them sew it for me too. You know what I mean? Like,
Is
I
it
don't
just
wanna
a
go-
hole punching thing?
No, it's like, I want to know the proper way to layer the different, I want to do an
Oh.
inlay, you know,
Obviously you got to find a
so
resource.
it's like, I couldn't believe they didn't know how to help me. It was really irritating. But
Well,
they were totally nice, but I'm like, come on, you
it's
gotta
probably a
know.
bunch of young kids who it's a job and they don't really know anything about it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing I see with art stores, and I probably shouldn't do this, but I always hear people at work at art stores giving people really horrible advice,
Yeah.
and I always jump in and go, and I always feel like I'm just being a know-it-all, but I'm actually trying to not, because I'm sitting there listening to it and go, okay, they're
Yeah.
telling you to spend $250. You actually need to spend $30.
Mhm.
You don't
I
need
hear
all
it
this.
at Home Depot, Joann's all the time. I feel like,
Okay, so there's a little lighter value right there. So that's starting that. And then he's got a some kind of necklace thing. That might be a little dark, but I think it's okay. Again, why do I want the necklace? Because it's gonna break up my shapes. Damn it. Right? And then I might go here. Okay, what is going on with this? It's throwing down these colors that are not the colors I want. That's weird. Okay, what I really want there. Damn it. Hang on. That's super weird. Let's see if it still does it. That is weird. Why is it doing that? Well, it doesn't even want to go neutral. Okay, but let's just say that that's gray like it's supposed to be, which is bizarre. You know, and then I'll just give it a little tweak. Maybe a little dark value right there. And I'm out, right?
Mhm.
But what does that do? It breaks up that area. right? And then here, one more thing. Where does other picture go? Okay, now what's going on? This something's really weird's going on with this file. Hang on. Hang on, I got one more thing I got to do here. Hang on. Yeah, all kinds of things are going on. Wait. Come on. Okay, sorry. So let's turn this one back on real quick. I'm looking for that. There it is. So his guitar is really dark. So in here, this should make a huge difference, actually. Oops. God damn it. This is going to be a really half-ass selection. Let's try 15. All right, let's hang on. So this is now just coming down to value and stuff, yeah?
Mhm.
And we're going to see, hopefully. And another thing, hang on. Wait, let's try this. There we go. That's a little better. And we're going to get that white back in there. Actually, I'm going to take the pick now. And even that white value could probably have a little bit of value to it. Maybe just a little bit of gray or whatever. And then, like here, it's going to be a little shine on it where it's up facing. Okay, where are you at? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So again, we didn't really do that much to it. So I'm really not doing that much to it. Let's do this. Let's do this. I love how it doesn't go to the right folder. It's so cool. And let's go. Oops. Let's go. Save as. Save on your computer. It still doesn't go to the right folder. Oh yeah, it did. Okay. And then let's take this. I'm just going to try and straighten it out a little bit. And I'm going to cut this out. Because you're thinking this is going to come up over that a little bit, right? Yeah.
Okay, yes. That would look better, I guess.
Oh. None of that. Oh, that's fine. I got to turn off those stupid tutorial things.
And for his vest beneath the neck of the guitar, I should fill that in, right?
Yeah, I would just continue the shirt and the strap. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like to do that sometimes, you know, I just like to see what it looks like a little more finished, you know, in a presentation quality thing, right? Okay, does that all make sense?
Yes.
Oh, and you probably need a little more value on the hands there, on the neck, because they're kind of blending together.
Mhm.
Try not to overdo hands. Doesn't look like you did. You know, like something where you already have it pretty established. And then like if you look at, it's hard to see on here. Like fingernails, you know, they might get just a touch lighter, a little touch, you know, whatever, a little touch of something. And a lot of times people overdo the nails, and it's actually like, no, you just need to shift the value and the color a little bit right there, the temperature just a hair, and it'll, you know, like sometimes they go pinkish, things like that, right?
Mhm.
And then like here, I wouldn't do too much more on this hand. You know, you can do that cool sergeant thing where he would just come in here and maybe just separate a finger just like that, maybe. Not overdo it. Sometimes up here, you can get the same thing that happens down here where this will get a little pinky on the knuckles. Like mine are. Can you see it? Oh, you probably can't see it.
Yeah, I can see.
Yeah, they're pinkish right there.
Mhm.
And then same thing over here. I'd probably just block in sort of an overall flesh tone to separate this a little. Then find whatever value up here is going to work. Or temperature. That probably needs to be lighter. That needs to be a little lighter, but I'm not going to worry about it. You know, and then the same thing. Maybe I just come in here and, okay, what just happened? That's cool. Oh, it just shoved over there for no reason. And then
And I should just leave the background white.
even look at my tips of my fingers. They go, and it's probably hard to see in here, but like the tips of my fingers are going a little bit redder. My palm's a little redder. These are a little more pinky.
Mhm.
You know, a little of that kind of stuff. And then probably a little of that here and there. Blah, blah, blah. Right? That's jumping too much, but you get the point, right?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, now if you notice, the main thing we come away from this, value and adding some color in there. Okay, because we don't want to all become monochromatic.
Mhm.
We want it to be monodramatic. I just made that up. Now I'm going to write a book called that. Yes.
Okay.
All right, you guys.
All right. Take care.
Take care.
Have a nice day.
You too.
Thank you.